That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, okay, this is what I'm saying about seasons. I have been a person who has struggled when I'm in a season. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Julia and I film different types of content from food reviews to tips and tricks on how to live a better quality life. Today I have yet another topic that I want to discuss, and I don't know what exactly to call this topic, but I would say it's the principles that guide me in life, because as you go along life, you start making decisions on how you want to do things or how you want to handle things. And I just came up with a list of principles that I use to live life that guide me in decision making and just act as a thing that points me towards whatever direction I want to take. This came about when I was sitting down and thinking, now when you get to a certain point in life, you kind of need to know why do you do the things that you do, or why do you act the way you do, why do you respond to things the way you do. And I think sometimes it's very good to sit down and internalize your reasons and understand why, or what is your guiding force. So the first one is empathy. I'm a highly sensitive person, which means that I feel emotions a lot, I feel people's pain a lot, I pick up a lot of emotions and things from my environment. So that by default makes me an empathetic person. But I would say now it's more of something that I do intentionally, try to be as empathetic as I can. I tend to think that everything someone is doing and the things that people are doing, they are for a reason. People don't just wake up and make decisions or act the way they do. So I do try to be empathetic so that I can understand where the other person comes from. And don't get me wrong, sometimes this is not the easiest or the healthiest thing to do, because sometimes you might understand where someone is coming from and you end up allowing more than you should. But when I look at it from a positive point of view, my reason for being empathetic is just to be more understanding and accord people a bit more grace. It is a good thing. It is a good thing to be empathetic, but I think the thing I need to tell myself more is to just limit, have a boundary as to what that empathy makes me do. That doesn't mean that you take on people's responsibilities, take on people's burdens as your own. You also have to learn to put a boundary and be like, okay, I understand what you're going through, but I don't have to internalize and go through it, because I also have my own life journey that I'm going through. The other principle is trying and seeing the lesson in everything that happens in life. This, I don't even know. Honestly, with this one, I think it's just being mature about it. Because when something happens, the first thing I want to do is blame everyone, blame the people around me. But now you get to a point you're like, you know what? At the end of the day, it's you. That thing is happening to you. So of what use is it to keep blaming everyone around you about what's happening? How I navigated that is to start to see the lesson in everything that happens to me. If something bad happens to me, yes, I'll get angry, I'll get upset, I'll go through the emotions of it. But at some point, especially when the pain is not as fresh, I'll be like, okay, what lesson can I learn from this situation? Because I believe that things are not just handed to you in life without a lesson that you should learn. And with this, I also believe that sometimes when you're not learning a lesson, you'll keep going through the same situation and the same struggle. So especially when I realized that for you to get past certain things, you need to learn the lesson that you're trying to be taught, that the world is trying to teach you, so that you can get past it. So as difficult and as hard as it gets sometimes, I'm always like, let me try and get the lesson that is being thrown at me from this particular situation. The other principle is just understanding that some things happen to you for a reason, and some things just happen to you without any reason, any explanation. And as long as you live, you might not get an answer as to why something happened. And I can't even tell you how liberating that was for me, because you always want to excuse a situation or something that happens to you. Like the human instinct is to excuse it, give an explanation to something, justify to yourself why something is happening. But if you go through life and you realize that some things you're not getting an answer, you can't get stuck forever trying to find an answer as to why something has happened. It could be that that was simply part of your journey and there's no greater reason other than it's you and that thing just happened to you. It's very difficult to grasp that at first because you always, especially when you go through difficult times, you're like, why did this happen? Why does that happen? But I think the quicker you realize that it just happened, there's no amount of reasoning, no amount of searching for answers will make you understand why. But sometimes you just have to come to terms with things happening for this, just for the sake of happening. There's no explanation. And I know this is very difficult, especially for people who are looking for closure when it comes to things. And I've also struggled with looking for closure with certain things, but I'm just like, you cannot put certain aspects of your life on hold simply because you're looking for an answer. Sometimes you just have to continue and trust that maybe one day you'll get an explanation, or maybe you won't. But either way, are you going to be okay with living life without getting an answer as to why something is happening or something has happened to you? The other principle I live by is just trying to understand that there are seasons in life. There are good seasons in life and there are bad seasons in life. And no season lasts forever. And at first, when I was trying to internalize that the whole no season lasts forever, I was always thinking about the bad seasons, the difficult seasons, where you're struggling, nothing is working out, nothing is going on, and you're just looking forward to the day this season will be over, the day you'll finally overcome this particular thing. When I sat down and realized no season is permanent also applies to the good seasons, that's when you get like a light bulb moment. You're like, oh my goodness, even the good moments that I'm enjoying, they're not permanent, and it takes a lot of maturity to be able to understand that you don't have to take that in a negative way of saying that, okay, a good season is not permanent, so I am so devastated, I am so torn apart. That means for me that I should be enjoying the good moments that are happening in my life. If I have something good going on, I should be fully present and fully enjoying that. And when it's really difficult, to be honest, to really grasp this concept, because you're thinking, okay, so for example, if I have a good job going on right now, does that mean that I'm going to lose the job? I don't really have a clear answer as to what that means. Yes, you might lose that job, or the job might become difficult, but look at the other side. It might end and open up to something better, or it might end and you walk into a season of struggle and everything. But the basic thing is just to understand that no season is permanent. Life is full of seasons, and also there's a time for everything. There's a season to do certain things. I have been one person who has struggled greatly with seasons in life, especially when you have your own picture of how things should be going in your life, the natural progression: go to school, finish school, meet someone, get married, settle down, start a business, start a job, whatever. But sometimes you get into seasons and you get completely stuck and you're just struggling with the idea of, why am I in this season? Why can't I move on? And it's very important for me to understand that it's a season and there's nothing much you can do about it except get through that season so that you can go through the next season. If you're in a bad season, most likely the season that comes after is good, although that's also not guaranteed. So it really made me appreciate the seasons I'm in, especially the seasons where you're practically stuck and no matter what you're trying to do, you cannot get past that season, nothing is moving, you have tried everything possible until you get to a point you're like, you know what, it's a season. And I think the best thing for me to do, and the thing that will bring me the most peace, is just to sit down and appreciate what this season is about. See the positives. Try and understand why you're in that season. Try and understand what you're supposed to be learning that will propel you to get to the next season. And that gives you a bit of peace. And I know it's hard because sometimes you're just like, regardless, and at the back of my mind, I'm not happy with this. I'm simply not happy, I don't want to be in this particular season. But just to give yourself comfort and just to go through, it's just good to internalize that everything is a season. It will end. Trust me, it will end and you will get past it. The other principle that I live by is just understanding that whatever stays in your life, you most likely have to work for. You might get handed things to you in an easy way. Things might come easy to you. That's one side of it. But if you want that thing to last, to stay in your life, you need to continue putting in energy. I'm talking about me, I think it's everything, to be honest. Relationships, work, wealth, good things, you will get them. Sometimes in an easy way, sometimes it's a difficult way, you get the stuff. But to keep the things in your life, you need to continuously pour in whatever it is. And once I realized that, I stopped taking things for granted. It was very important for me to realize that if I want something to stick in my life, I have to maintain it. Just like if you want a plant to continue growing and stay alive, you have to water it. That's just the same principle of whatever you want to stay, you need to invest in it. Another principle I live by is you need to invest in relationships for them to be fruitful. I learned this when I started looking at interactions between human beings as more of a relationship than just things that happen by default. And this is especially the case when it comes to family. We are born into whatever family we are born into. We don't get to choose. We don't get to choose the people we are related to. But what I've come to realize over time is that just because someone is a family member doesn't mean you have a relationship with that person. Gets to a point where you have the capability of choosing the relationships you want to foster and continue building versus the ones that you were just born into and you didn't really get to choose much. So my principle is that if I want to grow a relationship, if I want a more fruitful interaction with someone, I need to invest in it. I need to be more intentional in it. And the same way, if I don't want a relationship, if I don't want a connection with someone, I just stop investing in it and it goes away. And the final principle that I live by is believing in the power of declaring things and speaking things into existence. I truly believe, and I've come to believe, that the life that you're living has a lot to do with the things that you're speaking into existence, the things that you're declaring with your mouth. And I didn't even think much of it until I bumped into this audiobook called The Game of Life and How to Play It. I think that's the name of the book. And the way that book just explains everything and how we create our own reality to some extent, because I still believe in God, in a higher power, and God sometimes knows how your life is going to turn out. I still believe how our life goes has a lot to do with the things that we're declaring. If you're always declaring negative things over your life, how I am so sad, I'm so poor, I'm so depressed, I'm so lonely, you will find your life has that exact pattern. And sometimes how to fix a situation is just to declare things that are a bit more positive. So ever since I realized that, I've just become very, very conscious on the things that I say, the things that I internalize. And sometimes it's hard because there are situations where it's much more comfortable and much easier to speak negatively, because you just get into this bubble of comfort where you just want to talk trash. You don't really want to care. You don't want to put in the effort and the work that requires you to speak positively. It's really just important to just be careful of the words that you're speaking, the things that you're speaking out there. You might not have control over many things, over what's happening, but how about speaking positively and just seeing how that impacts your life? So yes guys, that was just a quick sit down talking about life principles. This is something that I literally thought about not too long ago, and I was like, I need to actually write this down and see whether this is something that is true to myself, or they're just things that I'm thinking about and I've been doing here and there, but I haven't really been using as a guide. So I just thought I'd share that. And if you guys have principles that you live by that you can comment on, just so that we because this was really hard for me to think of and put pen to paper. But I think if we talk about it and people see what exactly they are, they'll be able to sit down with themselves and be like, okay, what are my principles? And I think this is important because you need to kind of know what is pushing you to do things in life. What is that thing that's guiding you? What's your driving force? What is that thing that gives you direction? Yeah? Anyway, guys, I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you on my next video. Bye.